Good morning. Good afternoon. Good evening. Good night. This is Musa Matt Beecham Jr. broadcasting broadcasting on Earth in the solar system where you have Mars, Mercury, Uranus, Pluto. We have several other planets in this universe. I don't know how many different type of beings you have, but I'm sure that even in this universe, I'm sure there are other beings. They may not be like myself, although I just may be one of those. I'm sure within this universe, I'm sure in our solar system, I'm sure there are other living entities. I'm sure that there are living entities on Jupiter. I've never been there before, and I've never been to Saturn, and I've never been outside of Earth. But I bet you within this solar system, the solar system which we live in, I bet there is life. It may be unlike the life that we know of, but there is life. This is I'm doing a series. Uh, and this is part two of a series. If you go to Amazon and check out my other series, I write ebooks and series. I have one uh, ebook series is from A to Z, and then I have another ebook series, and it's from I deal with I do a lot of crazy things with E equal MC squared. That's the Einsteinian theory of relativity. I think in about at least about 20 of my ebooks, I deal with E equal MC squared. And then I'll move on to another series, which is called Infinitive is Relative. I think I have about maybe 20 ebooks in that series. And then the last series that I wrote was series A through Z. I'm not I'm not the kind of writer that would get the Nobel Prize, the Nobel Prize in writing. Uh, Basically, the reason why I'm a nonconformist, and I understand that, and I understand that those people who give out Nobel prizes, and considering some of the Nobel prizes that they have given out, I, I'm not the type of person that they would like to give a Nobel Prize. I could use the money, and then even in Amazon, I've published close to of all the book publishing, and all of these are my books. Of all the books that have been published, of all of my writings, it I mean, if you include the paperbacks, the hardbacks, and the ebooks, if you just total all of those books up, I've written in this lifetime and published over 300 books that you can actually go and read. But the thing is, the way that things are established in this world, I, I'm the kind of artist that only uh, the people of the future will hear about. Because it's always when you have great artists like myself, like writers, philosophers, when you have philosophers and writers like myself, they are not appreciated during their lifetime. They are only appreciated in the future. So that means that despite the fact that they won't give me a Nobel Prize in writing or any other prize in writing, it's not because of my inability to write. It is because of their inability to appreciate my writing. What do I write about? I write about everything. I write about everything. If you can think about it, I wrote about it. And the only way is you could find out what I write about, you would just have to check out my books. There are many books. I have much to say today. Um, Basically, I have decided to establish another series of books, and I'm sorry, not a series of books, but a series of presentations or a series of broadcasts. My last broadcast was, I think it was, I want to talk about God Part One. This is, I want to talk about God Part Two. I don't know how many parts I'm going to do this, but like just in my writings, I write until I get exhausted. So when I get tired of dealing with this particular series, I'll move on to another. I want to get. If you read my writings are futuristic. My writings of the absurd. If you really do research in my writings, you find that I have done scholarly books. I have done scholarly books. In other words, non-fictions, books about history, books about art, books about linguistics. I've done books like that. But if you read the bulk of my books, they're mostly fiction. And my fiction is not like any other fiction that you've ever read. I guarantee. If you open up two or three of my ebooks, you'll say, "Wait, I've never seen this kind of writing before." I was excited over Einstein's theory, E equal mc squared. So I began to uh, I call it a literary sociological reaction to Einstein's scientific theory. And I wrote many ebooks that dealt with E equal mc squared. And then I developed another series that just said infinitive is relative. And I deal with way out subjects, way out characters. And if you start reading my books, you say it's unlike any type of reading that you've seen before. Well, here we are again. I I watch my ratings. I see, and you know I don't I don't care if YouTube cuts me off, but I know YouTube is not telling the truth. The thing is, I'm looking at people. I'm saying, how did this guy get 1,220 views? How did he do that? I'm beginning. I don't rely anymore on the numbers that are printed that saying how many people are watching me, because I think that's all stat. That's the problem with that's the problem that I want to talk about today. Contradictions, hypocrisy. Uh, that's what I would like to talk about today. How people think that they can create things, create lies, and make these lies reality. I think about how the Western powers get these puppets and these idiots, and they'll make them leaders of a country. I study how, look at what these Western powers do. Okay, here's a man. He is in charge of 10 million souls. I mean, and if you bring him to the United States of America, that same man would probably only qualify as a taxi driver. But this man in these certain parts of the world where they have these puppet governments, the man who they put in power, if you bring him to the United States of America, he would probably he probably wouldn't even qualify to be a janitor. Most of the I drove cab in US. I drove cab in Hollywood. I drove cab in Las Vegas. I drove cab in Boston. I drove cab in 4 or 5 major cities in the US. And most of those the cab drivers, when I was driving cab, they were always immigrants. I think that most of the cab drivers in the US are immigrants. But yet you have people with mentalities of janitors, of a janitor, of a housekeeper, ruling countries of millions of people. If you bring them to America and have them to take a job, that man who's ruling this puppet that these Western powers use to put over people, I mean, they would not even qualify to be a janitor in America. They would not even qualify to be a taxi driver. But yet, these puppets, they're in charge of millions, 20, 30 million people, 30 million human beings, and you got a retard that runs the nation. And when you have retards, stupid idiots who run nations, puppets, then the masses are at the mercy of a retard. So that's what happens in the world. You know, those guys who want to control and rule the world, they will do anything to control the world. They will. Here's a guy on YouTube who they're trying to control or manipulate, and they do things when they know what he broadcasts. They do these little technical things. But see, the thing is, what comes around goes around, and God does not like it ugly. I remember I was talking about God to an immigrant when I was in the U.S. And I said, God does not like ugly. You know what the immigrant said to me? He said, and he does not like pretty either. Well, as I hear that the U.S. is on alert. On alert for what? What is the U.S. on alert for? What? Iran is going to attack the U.S. Russia is going to attack the U.S. China is going to attack the U.S. Why is the U.S. on alert? I mean, what did the U.S. do to be on alert? Well, those people who control this world. I mean, these are like the pharaohs. They way. They don't give a damn about us peasants. Just the main people. They have no concern about the masses. Think I talked about the soldiers before. Okay, you go to war. Here's an army, 100,000. Here's another army, 100,000. They go to war. On both sides, 50,000 men are killed, and each side goes home with 50,000 human beings left. So those guys way up at the top, they don't give a damn about us at the bottom. But the thing about it, I have no problems with being at the bottom. You know why? Because I believe in God. I believe in God. And I believe in Holy Scripture. Holy Scripture. And somewhere in Scripture, it says something. He who is first become last, and he who is last become first. I can't quote. I don't quote direct quotations, but all I know is in my readings of the Bible, and in my readings of the Quran, and in my readings of other religious literature, there are impressions in my mind which I think I understand. So you got the evil and you got the good. You got the proud and you got the meek. You got the living and you got the dead. Yes, war is upon us. Yes, many will die. Millions will die. So I would like to talk about God. Part 2 of my broadcast. Part 2. I want to talk about G-O-D. The thing is, it's one thing about talking about G-O-D. Anytime you talk, you're talking about G-O-D. Okay, let's look at the phenomenon of God. Let's look at the idea of God. Okay, now everyone claims that they worship a God, some God, and mostly everyone thinks or feels that this God that they worship is more powerful than they are. That's what I think that everyone, I think at least 95% of people think that the God that they worship is powerful. It's more powerful than themselves. I know when I used to read the Bible and read the Old Testament, I think in the book of Kings, when the Israelites were being captured, when they were fighting wars and whatever, there was a commandment, as I remember. That commandment was, I guess it was to the Israelites when they were fighting their enemy. It said, "Kill all the men, kill all the women, kill all the children, kill all the livestock, just totally destroy them." That is in the Bible. That is in the Holy Bible. That is in the Holy Bible. And if we use the ethics of the Holy Bible, then when a government or a king or a prince or a president resolves that he or she will go and just eliminate, kill the men, kill the women, kill the children, kill the sheep, kill the cows. It's in the Bible. You know, I find it quite interesting. Okay, let's go to the Ten Commandments. It says, "Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not kill." You see how complicated it gets? It becomes very complicated. It becomes very complicated. When we got all these things coming at us as human beings, we got, okay, all these things coming at us as human beings. It can become quite confusing. Quite confusing. But I want to talk about God. I want to talk about Him. I love and fear God. Okay, I would like to review what my impression is of God. He's powerful. I mean, there's nothing that can equate to Him. He is a creator. Okay, somewhere in the Bible it says, "I'm the end and I'm the beginning." I mean, we can think, look at this, we can think of God. We can meditate on God. But can we really perceive God? We cannot perceive God. Mankind, each of us, we cannot perceive God. What is perception? Perception is getting a comprehension of something. In your eyes perceive, your ears hear. The senses that you have, sense of touch, you can feel this. But my concept of God is that as we exist in this human form, we cannot realize who, where is God. We are not equipped to do that. This is my belief. Even as I speak to my audience, my speech was spoken a million years back, a trillion years back. Even as I sit here and speak of God, God already knows. God already knows before I speak. He knows what I will speak. So we, in the form that we are in, human beings, all we can do, is meditate on God. We can't conceive it. We can't realize it. Okay, when I think of God, when I think of God, this is how I think. I say, even before I speak, God already knows what I will speak. Okay, now I think the easiest way to have some type of comprehension of God is, let's look at the artist. The artist, he who creates. Let's imagine that you are an artist. Okay, that means you have a canvas and you have a brush. Okay, you can be a musician or a singer, a dancer, whatever. You're creating something. But the easiest way to talk about an artist is to talk about the artist. The one who paints with the brush or draws with the pencil. Okay, here's your canvas. Here's the brush, and here's the paint. You get your paint and you start painting, and you paint this and you paint that. But no, you don't like that. So you drop you brush into another color and you scratch it out, and you start doing some more, and you scratch it out, and then you do some more, and then finally you do something. Oh, you like it, so you paint. You create. You can create a subject, or you can uncreate a subject. The artist. That is about the closest way we can see what God is. He creates and he creates and he desecrates, or he creates and he uncreates. He does as he pleases. And even as I sit here and stare into this computer, 1,000 years ago, 1 million years ago, 1 trillion years ago, one infinite amount of years ago, I would be here speaking as I speak. See how complicated it gets? It gets very complicated. So, this is part 2 of my broadcast. And these broadcasts will be dealing on the subject of GOD. This is Musa, Matt Beecham Jr., signing off.